Here at Big Cat Rescue, we get a ton of emails and phone calls from people. Some of the emails are pictures they sent in wanting us to identify cats. Well, 99.9% of the time, just turns out to be a big house cat these people have seen from far away. But sometimes, like this next case, where a gentleman claims to have heard a female Florida panther a good 2 to 3 hours north of its current range. Well, that intrigued us, so loaded up the car and went to check it out.
Yes, thank you for coming out. I'm always happy to cooperate with any conservation organization. My name is Bruce Morgan. I'm a professional naturalist. I create artificial environments all over the world, in fact, and I live here in southwestern Alachua County. On Wednesday night of last week, I was sitting by a fire in my backyard enjoying the beautiful evening when I suddenly heard the most extraordinary sounds I have ever heard come out of a forest anywhere. Piercing screams that I honestly believed were coming from a woman who was being murdered. It sounded as though some garbled, as if a poor woman had a hand around her throat and she was screaming, "Help me! Help me!" only with enormous volume. I was so startled that I jumped up. I ran out of the woods, literally thinking I was going to be saving my neighbor. When I did, I realized that the sounds were not of human origin. Then there was a brief hiatus, and the cries picked up again to the east, alerting every dog within miles, and all of the neighborhood dogs began snarling and barking and growling like I've never heard the dogs behave. The cat, by this time I was quite certain that I was listening to a cat, proceeded east for approximately half a mile, I would judge from the calls, and then returned. So I heard this animal for the better part of half an hour, screaming and crying at the top of its lungs, and I had never heard anything like it. I'm quite an experienced woodsman. I have tracked many, many jaguars in Central America. I've tracked tigers in Thailand, and I have never heard anything to equal this. The following day, I listened to audio clips of female panthers in heat, and it was quite evident to me that that is exactly what I had heard. What was important to me, even though the voices of the individual animals were different, was the cadence. Same song, different singer. When I heard that, and then subsequent to that, I heard the call of a bobcat, a female bobcat, and I realized that that's an entirely different sound. So there's no question in my mind but that what I heard was a female panther. I would like to add that this is not the first panther encounter I have had here in Alachua County. In 1998, I was canoeing down Prairie Creek, which, as you may know, is immediately adjacent to world-famous wildlife refuge, Payne's Prairie. And there, it was my birthday, I might add, and there was a panther standing in full view on a cypress limb. This was witnessed not only by myself, but by a woman in the front of my canoe who has a degree in wildlife biology, and by 2 other canoe loads of people. This animal then proceeded to leap from treetop to treetop. I got a really good look at it. It stood there directly in front of me, unobstructed, so I know that there have been panthers here in Alachua County. I made a report at that time, and I was given in response that I'd surely seen an arboreal German Shepherd. I was not happy to hear that. I considered it not only to be insulting, but not to be useful in terms of information that could help the species. When I think about this, what I heard the other night, and I realized that it was probably a female, I cannot help but consider the importance of that, because we know that most of the cats that disperse from South Florida, that come up here, are males, young males, trying to find mates and new habitat to occupy. So if a dozen males were to come up here and there were no females, it would have no implications for conservation. But if this was a female, this could possibly be the first female that has made it this far north. And we know that these cats all across the nation are trying to reoccupy the range that they originally lived within. We know that cats are coming from the west into places like Illinois, Iowa. The number of reports throughout Florida have increased. And I personally think that it's very, very important that something be done with these reports, that they be put to some use, that at least they become part of a database. And I fully understand the problem that the Game and Fish Commission has with these reports, that they're anecdotal, that in most cases, such as this one, there is no hard evidence. And I did search for tracks and found none. But nevertheless, all of this information is potentially useful for conservation. And I really think it's important that rather than dismiss these reports, which they are dismissed out of hand, Game and Fish Commission considers all of it nonsense. The only response I got from Game and Fish from this latest report used the word UFO in the same sentence to describe my sighting. And I don't appreciate that, because this is not a UFO sighting. This is the sighting or the hearing of an animal which is native to Florida, which belongs here, and which is trying to reoccupy the habitat that was historically theirs. Thank you very much.